Good morning and welcome to my lecture on Final CA, Corporate and Allied Laws. Please open your practice manual. Come to chapter number 2, Accounts and Audit. Right? This is the first chapter which I'm starting with. Whatever I'm saying, every word which I speak, just write it down in the practice manual near the question in very small handwriting or in a separate notebook, whatever is feasible to you. So I'm trying to summarize the practice manual so it makes it easier for you students. There are many good videos on YouTube like by Professor Tayal. I do recommend Tayal sir a lot. Rather than attending his class, join his video lectures. I was also his student for IPCC and also in Final CA. And I also make my own notes and try to attempt to summarize to make law for my students much easier. So every word of what I speak must be written down. Now we don't have the Companies Act 1956, we have the Companies Act 2013, but there are many similarities such as producer company is not at all changed. Producer company is same as per the old and the new law. The problem with most of these lectures, by Tayal sir and the other professors, that they're very good, but they spend a lot of time discussing the provisions, and I mean, we talk about the provision, why talk about length on various topics which are unnecessary, like this has changed, that has changed, these are the new provisions. The professor will spend more time discussing other stuff than discussing the provision itself. So no need to memorize subsection numbers, no need to memorize proviso numbers also. The exam के पहले तुमको section number याद नहीं रहता, subsection और proviso क्या याद रहेगा. Anyways, let's start. So the first question in your practice manual in chapter number 2 is that the Board of Directors of Bharat Limited have its books of accounts located in a backward area and they are facing problems, so they want to shift the books of accounts to its corporate office. Discuss the provisions of the Companies Act 2013. So section 128 of the Companies Act 2013 mentions that every company has to mention its books of accounts as well as books and papers for every financial transaction for every financial year, which reflects the true and fair view of the financial position of the company and its branches, right? And this position has to be maintained, this financial statement have to be maintained on accrual basis and on a double entry system. Now in case if the Board of Directors, they want to change their office, they want to change their registered office, they have to intimate the registrar, they have to inform the registrar. So they have to file a notice with writing with the registrar within 7 days. So the Board of Directors of Bharat Limited, by following the above procedure, can change the corporate office. Once again, I just repeat, section 128 mentions that the books of accounts as well as the books and papers for every company, for every financial transaction, for every financial year, which give a true and fair view of the company and its branches, have to be maintained on double entry system and on accrual basis. Right? This is the way the accounting has to be done. In case there is any change in the registered office of the company, you have to intimate the registrar by filing a notice with them in writing within 7 working days. So by following the above procedure, the Board of Directors of Bharat Limited can shift their office to the corporate office from the backward office. It was located in a backward area before. You got the glimpse of it. This is exactly the small summarized crunch which I am giving you of the entire practice manual. Let's move to question number 2. Mr. White wants to be appointed by the Board of Directors of White Metal Limited. So discuss the provisions of the Companies Act 2013 so as to appoint Mr. White as a chief accountant. So section 129 and 134, these are the relevant provisions over here. So how to make you memorize? Just imagine कोई 12-13 चोर लोग हैं, 12-13 crook accountants are there who are doing mismanagement, and वो 12-13 चोर लोग को निकाल के you want to hire a good chief accountant who has got 94%. This is a mnemonic which I am trying to help you learn. तो 12-13 चोर लोगों को निकाल के 94% वाला, 12-1-2, 94% वाला का 9, so 129 and 134. 12-13 चोर लोगों को निकालो, 95% वाले अकाउंटेंट को लाओ, 129, 134. So resolve that pursuant to the provisions of 129 and 134 of the Companies Act 2013, Mr. White be and hereby is entrusted with the expedient and necessary duty of maintaining accounts of the company. Right? So a board resolution is passed hereby. Resolve that Mr. White is entrusted with the duty of maintaining books and accounts pursuant to the provisions of 129 and 134 thereof. And section 128 mentions that if there is any default, right, in complying with 129 and 134, then the managing director, the whole-time director, and the chief financial officer, and every officer who is responsible for the default is punishable with imprisonment, which may extend to 1 year, and or be liable to a fine, which may range from 50,000 rupees and may extend to 5 lakh rupees. So you may get imprisonment extended to 1 year, or you may be liable to fine which may range from 50,000 rupees to 5 lakh rupees, or both. Right? So how do you memorize that? MWC. मैं वतन की कसम खाता हूँ. मैं वतन W. कसम CASAM, usually is KASAM, but just to make you memorize, मैं वतन की कसम करता हूँ. So MD, WTD, Managing Director, Whole-Time Director, and the Company Secretary. Sorry, the Chief Financial Officer. Whoever is responsible for the default, imprisonment up to 1 year, or a fine which may range from 50,000 to 5 lakh, or have the imprisonment and the fine both together. This is the default section. Now move to question number 3. Question number 3 mentions that one second. XYZ wants to maintain its books of accounts on cash basis. Now we mentioned, which I mentioned in the question number 1, that section 128 clearly mentions that books of accounts and books and papers of every financial company, of every financial transaction, has to be maintained on a double entry system and on accrual basis. So there is no exception to the above law. So XYZ Limited cannot maintain its books of accounts on cash basis. This exception is not given for any class of companies. Now moving to the next question. Mr. Ramanuja, one of the directors of Debari Processing Limited, was not happy with the manner of management of the company. So he appointed Mr. Ananda Raja as a chartered accountant to carry out inspection of the books of accounts. So here again section 128 of the Companies Act 2013 clearly mentions that inspection can be carried out only by a director. Inspection of a company cannot be carried out by a member, irrespective of whatever shareholding the member is holding. Even if the member has more than 50% shareholding, in that case it's supposed to have management control of the company, yet a member cannot inspect the books of accounts. However, you can write a note in your answer that regulation 89 of table F of the Companies Act 2013 mentions that a member can also inspect the books of accounts if he is authorized by the board of directors by passing a resolution or by passing a resolution in the general meeting. Okay, so leaving that note apart in this answer, you can mention the note, but a member cannot carry out inspection of the books of accounts. Only director is entitled to carry out books of accounts, carry out inspection of the books of accounts as per section 128. Now when can he inspect? During business hours, right? He can only inspect it during business hours. He cannot come at any day and time and say I want to inspect the books of accounts. Now in Vakharia versus Supreme General Film Exchange Company, right? How to make you memorize this case law? See, it's a film related company, right? So film वाले directors often बहुत कुछ फेंकते हैं. So FEC, Film Exchange Company. Vakharia versus Supreme General Film Exchange Company. These directors, these actors, they have a lot of airs and arrogance about themselves. That I am great, I am an actor. So they say I am the Supreme General. Let's just get lost. उनको क्या करना है, whether you're a Supreme General or not. So this is a matter to make you memorize. So in Vakharia versus Supreme General Film Exchange Company, it was held that a director, if he is busy, if he cannot personally inspect the books, he can appoint an agent to inspect the books of accounts. But the agent must strictly give the information only to the principal and discharge his duties honestly. He must not play politics. So in Vakharia versus Supreme General Film Exchange Company, it was held that a director can carry out inspection either himself or through an agent if no objection is raised, right? And if he is authorized by the board to do so. And also you can mention regulation 89 of table F, which I mentioned, that a member can inspect the books of accounts only if he is authorized by the board. Okay, so that deals with this question. Now moving to the next question. Let me check the question. XYZ was registered in the year 2013, and Mr. A, I think a member who held 51% of the shares of the company, wanted to inspect the books of accounts. So here we mentioned that no, you cannot inspect the books of accounts because you are a member, you are not a director. And let me just read the question correctly. Mr. White, sorry. XYZ was registered, this is the fifth question. XYZ was registered in the year 2013 under Companies Act. There are allegations that 3 directors who manage the affairs of the company are siphoning the funds of the company. The company has not declared any dividends on the ground that the company is incurring losses. Mr. A, who controls 51% of the share capital, sends a notice to the management that he will inspect the books of accounts to verify the allegations, examine the rights of Mr. A to carry out the inspection. ये लोग बोल रहे हैं कि ये लोग चोरी कर रहे हैं, so they want to inspect the books of accounts. So nothing doing. Section 128 clearly mentions that inspection of books of accounts can only be done by a director. Now, but books of accounts is not only covered by 128, it is also covered by other sections, section 206 and 212. So who all can inspect books of accounts, right? First of all, I mentioned director under section 128. Then registrar of the company under section 206. Right? Then if the central government appoints any officer under section 206, so the central government appointed officer can also inspect books of accounts. Then there is an SFIO, Serious Fraud Investigation Officer, under section 212 of the Companies Act 2013. He can also inspect the books or accounts. So how do you make it memorize this? Just memorize one thing, that if you want to inspect the books or accounts, you need competent, educated people. So we are hiring a doctor and a company secretary. Doctor is DR, company secretary CS to inspect the book or account. DRCS, doctor and a company secretary. And the sections 128, 206, 206, 212. D 128, R 206, C 206, S 212. D is director. Right, only director can inspect the books or accounts. R is registrar of the company, registrar of the companies, and C is central government appointed officer, right? And S is serious fraud investigation officer. So director under director under 128, registrar of the companies under 206, central government appointed officer under 206, and SFIO, serious fraud investigation officer under 212. That deals with this question. So I've covered 5 questions from the practice manual. Don't worry, this is not some demo promotion lecture that I'm only going to teach limited questions. I'm going to cover the entire practice manual. Let's move to the next question. Open your practice manual, move to question number 6. Define the expression accounting standards within the meaning of the Companies Act 2013. Right? So section 2 mentions standards of accounting, and so apart from the standards of accounting, we also have some notes which are attached there too. There's an addendum. So any notes of accounting, any standards of accounting plus any addendum there too has to be attached to the statements. In fact, you must be also aware that although it's not pertaining to this answer under section 134, there is a director responsibility statement, DRS, where the directors have to attach a statement to the books of accounts mentioning that the financial transactions are happening on a true and fair basis, that there is no deviation from the accounting policy, or if there are any material departures from the accounting standards, they are disclosed, they are properly mentioned, the reasons for deviation from accounting standards. So all these factors have to be mentioned, whether the accounting policies are correct or not. So here in this question, what do we mean by accounting standards? Accounting standards basically are a framework laid down by the regulatory authority, right? And the central government can also give recommendations for accounting standards. The central government can prescribe accounting standards under section 133, right? And there is this National Financial Reporting Authority which has been established, which will work in consultation with the central government for prescribing accounting standards. So what do the accounting standards do? They ensure that the profit and loss account and the balance sheet, which are collectively called as financial statements, they give a true and fair view of the working of the company, and that the accounting policies are followed. If the accounting standards are not followed, then if there's any deviation, the deviation has to be disclosed. Any material departures have to be disclosed. That's about it, right? So YouTube has placed some 15-minute restriction on me for videos, so I cannot speak beyond 15 minutes. So I'll be putting another video for future questions. Hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next part.